everybody. Fair warning, another rant coming. All right, so Mitch McConnell has now said that they are taking the FBI building, the $1.7 billion funding that they tried to slip into this the HEALS Act, the stimulus, the second stimulus bill. They're going to take it out. Now, at a press conference, McConnell was very surprised when a reporter asked him about, why there was funding for the FBI building in a coronavirus stimulus bill. Okay? The man who, or at least his office, wrote this stimulus bill is surprised that there is a provision, a $1.7 billion provision in this bill for the FBI building. He's surprised by that $1.7 billion. Like it's nothing, like it's just a penny or two, pennies going somewhere. And I suppose to the federal government it is. But, imagine how many taxpayers, all of the taxes they pay in a year. How many of them would that add up to? Okay, how many taxpayers would have funded this building? Okay, this reminds me of back in 2009 when Nancy Pelosi, when the stimulus was coming out, she said, "Oh, well, we have to pass it in order to see what's in it." Okay, these politicians, Democrat, Republican, everybody, none of them have your best interests at heart. The ones who are currently in office. It has become a career, okay? Politics should not be your career. Okay, when the United States was first created, and through most of the 1800s and very early 1900s, Washington, D.C., Trump talks about draining the swamp. Well, Washington, D.C. was a literal swamp. It was hot, it was muggy, there was no air conditioning at that time. Nobody wanted to be there. Congress was only in session for part of the year, and then they went home to their families, and they had their own jobs, their own farms, their own, means of producing a living. A lot of them were lawyers. Some were farmers, some were doctors, there were a few doctors. They had all kinds of different professions, but they were not professional politicians. They did not collect, a salary of sometimes upwards of $200,000 per year. Plus, you got your books that you're writing, and your all your investments from, you taking that $2,000 and invested in that. And I have no problem with people who invest things. I do that myself. But it was not a career. It was just a way of serving the country, maybe gaining a little prestige along the way. I think it's time for a reevaluation of how we do things, how we elect our politicians, and who we elect. Neither the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party have your best interest at heart. They're serving their own interests. Okay? Many people cannot see past the letter D or the letter R. Okay? They cannot see past a liberal ideology or a conservative ideology. And those sides are drifting further and further apart. Okay? Political parties are going to be the death of our nation. This infighting, we cannot come together. You remember after September 11th, if you were alive. After September 11th, these parties, for about a 2 to 3 month period, they really came together, and there was not much infighting. That I'm not a fan of the Patriot Act, but the Patriot Act was passed with almost flying colors. We declared war on Afghanistan, and we did things to protect businesses, and we had Democrats and Republicans standing on the steps of the Capitol on I believe the night of September 11th, singing "God Bless America." Okay, can you imagine that happening today? There is so much infighting, and I think it's time for a whole new generation of people. Maybe not even a generation, just a whole new group. I don't want to say generation because they could be older, and we need older representation. We need people who have lived a little in our Congress. We need people who are forward thinkers, but we also need the people who will, when someone has gone too far forward, for our nation, to stand up and say, okay, that's a little too much. But the people where we are right now, we're at a stalemate. We're not moving forward at all. Okay, our Congress is the oldest, if you add up the average age of all of our people in Congress, it's the oldest that it has ever been. Okay, you have people in Congress now who have been in there almost forever. Okay, some of them have been in office since I think the 80s, 70s. It's time for a change. It's time we vote them all out. Not just Mitch McConnell, not just Nancy Pelosi. Vote them all out. It's time for, new blood in there. Every single one of them. We need to wipe the slate clean. It's time for that kind of change. Is that going to happen? Probably not. Honestly, I kind of think that maybe our country might fall eventually because of this, because people just cannot see past the D or the R. I don't know. I don't think most people are capable of thinking for themselves. I think that most people will believe whatever is fed to them. Call me a cynic, but that's just what I think. So, I have hope that something will change, but I'm not optimistic. I'm not super optimistic, I should say. But I do hope something will happen, because we desperately need it. My own friends, I can talk to them, and they will, to almost the death, support, a certain politician or a certain political party and all of their ideals. They are incapable, and they won't admit this to you, by the way. They are incapable of seeing anything that the other side does as right or as a good thing, even if it is so obvious that it's like a slap to the face. That's scary. We've robbed ourselves of our sense of right and wrong, and we've traded it for a political party, a political ideology, I should say. Our sense of right and wrong is now defined by our political ideology. And what if that political ideology, and that political ideology is set by a group of people, okay, members of parties at this point. At one time, it wasn't maybe that way. The ideology determined what the party did, but now the party determines what the ideology is. Okay? You have a small group of people who are controlling our entire lives, our entire way of thinking, and we're letting it happen. So, yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter. Hope you listen to my rant and will think about that when you go to vote in November. There are third parties. There are members of the opposing party that have maybe never been in office. Consider voting for them. Consider voting this crap, these horrible people who are just lost in their own self-centeredness, and they're so out of touch with the American people and what they want. The majority of American people, okay? They're really, really out of touch. Whatever that may be. And there are lots and lots of ideas out there. But what's happening now isn't working. So I guess I just kind of implore you to please think about it. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
All right, so our fried chicken is finished. I just pulled it out of the deep fryer a few minutes ago. Well, the second batch, I should say. And I'm about ready to give it a try. But before I do, I just wanted to mention, I forgot in the last part of the video, that you need to leave it in the deep fryer at 375 for about 15 minutes. If you want to be really safe, you could use a meat thermometer, and you want to reach an internal temperature of 175. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But all right, let's try a piece. Oh. The skin has a wonderfully strong flavor. You can taste the garlic and the onion powder so much. Not overpowering, just enough. Excellent. All right, that's it for this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or anything at all, just leave it down at the bottom. And until next time, enjoy. Goodbye.